What's going on? Matt Malatesta here with Coach Greg Cranfill of St. Pius. This is the St. Pius 10 Coaches Show brought to you every week by VYPE. All right, Coach. Big week coming up. Concordia, we're moving into district play. You know, y'all went 2 and 3 prior district. Just talk about what you guys think you got accomplished. And, you know, did y'all smooth out the kinks going into district play?
Yeah, I think the key right now is getting through those first 5. You know, our last game versus Bishop John, I turned around and we had 8 starters standing behind me in street clothes due to different injuries and those types of things. And a lot of those guys, thank goodness for our open week, are now back fully dressed out and ready to go. So we feel like we're moving in. Now, we're still missing a couple of key pieces, but we feel like we're moving into district play as in good a condition as we possibly can be when it comes to our injuries. Those guys that were not there, I was proud of the guys that did step in and assume those roles. But those guys are starters for a reason, and we missed them for sure. We feel like that we've done what we needed to and address the key parts of what's keeping us from being as successful as we want to in those critical situations through our open week, and we feel good about going into week 1 of district.
Well, you know, just kind of looking at your squad, you've got some, I can't tell who's like the alpha in the locker room. You got Jackson Mobley, you got Josh Mitchell, Vincent Doucette, Bryce. Who's kind of the straw that stirs the drink, or is it kind of a couple of them?
No, I think it starts with our captains. You know, Aiden Allen and Jonah Razzo from the defensive side, and then you got offensive lineman Issa Baba and Bryce on the offensive side. I think those guys have proven to be very great leaders in that locker room. And then you've got people that are fulfilling great spots or roles when you talk about the Vincent Doucettes and the Jackson Mobleys and KJ Dibble and all of those guys. Ryder Anderson on defense has been playing great. You know, you name it. We've had guys that have had great moments. I think the reason that we're sitting 2 and 3 right now is because of one word, and that's consistency. We have not shown a great amount of consistency in doing things correct the entire way. And, you know, when you look at success, the reality of it is it takes what it takes. There are no shortcuts. And if you want to be great, you have to do the things that great athletes and great players do on a consistent basis. And that's what we're focusing our attention on. You know, I'm happy with where we are, but never satisfied. You know, we just got to keep pushing and keep pushing.
All right, so big week. Willie Amendola takes over Concordia Lutheran. They kind of got off to a pretty quick start. I think they're 4-1. Talk about what y'all are trying to accomplish with them. Of course, getting a win, but what do you feel like will be some of the keys to that game?
Yeah, and I think Coach Amendola and his staff have done an amazing job over there. Continuing on, you're talking about a squad of on the Concordia side that, I mean, you can tell by watching video they're well coached. They're going to do what their coach is asking them to do, and schematically it's flawless. I mean, they've got a direction in which that offense rolls, and those kids believe in that system, and they should. I mean, Coach Amendola has got skins on the wall to prove that he knows what he's talking about, and he's got a staff of great coaches that can follow along and do what he's asked them to do. You know, defensively, they're solid. They fly to the ball and they play hard. So, I mean, to say that we would have to bring our A game, I think is foolish, because for us, if there is no A game, there is no game at all. So it's a great test for us. But I like our chances and the fact of how our kids have prepared and how well we're moving forward in this program.
You know, just talking about football and especially high school football, it all really, the coach is so integral in the high school football world. Yeah. And it starts with culture. And I just hear this word over and over again. What would you say like, what culture do you try and bring to wherever you've been, especially here at St. Pius?
Yeah, sure. So culture to us, and I agree with you. I mean, that's a word that's thrown around, but I don't know how many people truly define it for their program. To me, culture is the who, the what, the when, the where, and the why of what we do, the way we do every time, you know. And I think that starts, you know, for us through our JV program of building these kids up and believing in the system that we run. You know, we're so multiple offensively and defensively that no matter what size, what shape, what speed you are, we can find a place for you here at St. Pius, and that's what we try to do. And we're going to use those kids to the best of their ability to put them in situations to allow them to make plays. Culture is, in my opinion, is them believing that there are results from hard work and dedication, and committing to a program in which you will see benefits. Maybe it's not always to the level at which you want it to be. I mean, I think all of us set high expectations on ourselves, starting with me. But I think that success is always judged, not necessarily from us on the scoreboard on a weekly basis, but for me to be able to look 2 and 3 years down the road and say, are the kids that have gone through our program, are they better people? Are they going to be better husbands? Are they going to be better fathers? Are they better sons because of the lessons that we have instilled upon them with the help of their parents and moving forward? I think it's a belief in family, and families for us is an acronym that says, forget about me, I love you. And I think that's what we try to instill in those kids, that it's not always about them. Now, don't get me wrong. There are situations where I need kids to perform. I need it to be a very selfish thing that they say, I'm going to do this because that's what I've been coached to do, and the team will benefit from them. But when it comes to making decisions that are a whole lot we and a whole lot less me, I think that's what the locker room, I think that's the message that you get from our locker room.
And that's what coaches don't understand sometimes, is the influence that they have down the road.
That's
so,
right.
Like, you see all these social media influencers. Football coaches can be huge influencers in kids' lives.
Yeah.
But what I'm curious is, and I love to hear about what coaches have to say about this, is who were your biggest influences? Like, who kind of said, hey, I want to be like him, or gave you that nudge into saying, hey, this is what I want to do. This is my mission field, as being a high school football coach.
Yeah. So for me, it always starts with my pops, man. My dad is that guy. And I think it's funny, and I tell him all this time, I spent the first 20 years of my life hoping that I wouldn't be like him, and the last 28 years praying to God that I could be like him.
Right.
And I think that comes with growth and maturity, and just seeing a guy that would put his nose to the grind, that he would grab his hard hat and his lunch pail every day and go to work, and then he'd come home and he spent time with his family, regardless of how tired he was. He was that guy, and I use that as fuel for me anytime that I feel like I'm tired, is just to think about all the great things that he's done and accomplished, just because of how he is. And I think there's no doubt that he's probably my greatest influence. And I think it's, I was lucky to be surrounded by a lot of great men growing up, with my grandfather and my great uncle. And I have 2 amazing uncles on my mother's side that all were those great influences, that I don't think my dad cared at all if I got into the truck with any of those guys, because he knew they were going to take care of me. And not only take care of me, they were going to teach me how to be a better person. And I think that's why I'm so family oriented, in the fact of just knowing how much trust my mom and dad had in the family that surrounded me, and knew that I was going to be raised with a hard-nosed mentality, but also understanding it was okay to look a man in the eye and tell him how much you loved him. And I think I got that from my dad. So,
and when you get up in the morning or you take on a new season, what is it about coaching that keeps you coming back? Is it the camaraderie? Is it the kids? Is it kind of pushing forward to a singular goal? What is the juice, man? What keeps you going as it relates to coaching?
Yeah, I think it's funny because Katie, my wife, and I were just having this conversation actually yesterday. And I told her, I said, babe, you do understand ball coaches like us, we don't really have many hobbies. So that's why we coach since such a long age. She goes, well, you like golf? And I said, I have about $2,000 worth of golf clubs sitting in that garage that I've hit one time in the last year and a half. And I think it's because it's what we choose to do. It's not what we have to do. And I think that's a great lesson to anybody. There are people that live a life that they have to do a bunch of things. And in my case, I get to do what I do. You know, last week, Tuesday night, I went and watched, I got to go watch my son play. Wednesday night, I got to go watch another junior high game. Thursday night, I get to go watch our JV. Friday night, I get to go and coach a football team. And that's a lot of getting to, but that's a lot of things that I get to do because of the position that I hold. And I take that with a lot of seriousness. And I think there's a lot of honor that comes with it. And not only having that, but doing a great job with the platform that I have. You know, it's fun to do what we do, you know, and I think that's kind of what you're getting at. Don't think I don't go through hard days. You know, don't think that my life is full of sunshine and rainbows, because sometimes there's some thunderstorms in this chair that a lot of people that say, man, I want to be a head coach. And I say, do you? I mean, do you really want to do that? But see, I've been blessed being surrounded by a lot of great head coaches through my career. I started with Donnie Fothery, Keith Krutzinger. Then I had an opportunity to work with Steve Vickers at Van Vleck, and then Brian Irwin, who was at Lamarck. And then I was with him at Hillsborough. And then I went back to work for him at Flower Mound Marcus. I've gotten to work with Flint Bigham. I got to work with Terry Cron. And I think what I learned from each one of those is that there's a piece of each one of them in things that I do. And there's some pride that comes with going, you boys just got a lesson. And without Brian Irwin, you would have never got that lesson. And boys in my locker room get lessons that if it wasn't for Terry Cron, you would have never gotten that lesson, because that's where I got it. And I think every coach would say the same thing. And I hope that one day one of my assistants who becomes a head coach says exactly the same thing. That their kids in their locker room are better because they got an opportunity to work side by side with me. And I think that's cool.
That's the influencer part. It's just so fascinating that, you know, coaches, whether it be football, volleyball, whatever, they're influencing like 10,000 kids on the way, you know, during their career. And you say Brian Irwin, I remember his time at, you know, he's such a respected guy at Lamarck, and they had so many great teams there. And then he moved on, but just the lineage of coaching. And then, you know, what's kind of funny is David Amon, he was the coach at North Shore, who I was really close with when I wrote a book. And he's like, Matt, you know, it's just ingrained in your blood here every day. And he's sitting there with his wife at dinner, and he's thinking about, hey, man, maybe we should have called this play instead of this play during a game against Channelview and Jalen Hurts, who's now playing for the Philadelphia Eagles. You turn it off? It's so hard to turn it off sometimes.
Well, yeah, exactly. And if you can't, and I say this with all seriousness, if you can't, you'll be miserable. Yeah. Because you'll find out that you look back and you go, man, I wasted so many opportunities to do something else with my life other than just the X's and O's of football. And when I say that, I mean, I turn off the game to go watch one of our ex-players play a game.
Right.
That's not really turning it off, you know what I mean? But it is in a sense of you're doing things to create moments. And I think if you miss that opportunity with your wife and your son and your family, and, you know, you come to a St. Pius game, you're going to see my dad, my two sisters, my brother-in-law, my father-in-law, my mother, they're all sitting in the stands because of the support that we get. But there's a lot to say from a head coaching perspective to turn around, look at in those stands and see that level of support that you have. And like I said, it's just a moment. I had a buddy of mine that was a good friend of mine at when I was head coach at Wills Point, Rick John, State Farm agent. And at that Bishop Dunn game, he came and was there just because, he wanted to support. And people don't understand how big or how impactful that is on my life, because all I can think about is, can I do that for someone else? Can I have as much of an impact on someone else as he does in my life? And I think he would say, Greg, you did it when you coached my sons, but I still want that feeling. I want to give somebody else that feeling. And I think as coaches, I think that's kind of what it comes down to. Do I make people's lives better by the things that I do? I always say, if at the end of my career, right, standing over me, over my casket, sorry to get all dark, but to stand over my casket, if the best thing that the preacher can say is how many football games that I won, then I have failed as a football coach, in my opinion. I hope the list of things that he can say that I have accomplished deals with my family and deals with my lineage of making people better. And I think that's the challenge, or that's the charge that I live with on a daily basis.
I'm writing notes down here. I love the creating the moments. Dude,
yeah,
I'm going to steal that.
Do it.
Because I do believe that 100%. All right, finally, football, what do you feel like the state of football is right now? From the high school world to college to pro, it's changed dramatically.
Sure.
But it's still, strangely enough, blocking and tackling and family and community. And I mean, what do you think the state of football is right now?
Yeah, so to me, and I think the high school game is the most pure. But yes, that's because, and I'll tell you why, that's because the people that we have in charge have not allowed it to get out of control. College is where it's at because the NCAA and the people in charge have allowed it to get to that point with the pressure that they have, with the NILs, with all the recruiting that's going on. And obviously the pro game is such a business-oriented game. I think the high school game, and why I love doing what I do, is because you can still impact a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid and make a difference in their life. And I think, you said it earlier, it's the 8, 9, and 10-year-old kid that are watching what we're doing with those 15, 16, and 17-year-old kids makes a huge amount of difference as well. It's to where they make a decision at a young age, is this something that I want to do? Or is this something I don't ever want to be a part of because of how that guy was? One of the things I always tell our team is the biggest judge of a man is how you make other people feel. If a person walks away from a conversation and can say, that guy, I like that guy, he makes everybody else around him better, or he makes me feel good to be around him, then I think that you have proven that you're on the right track to being a successful person. If you walk away and people are going, man, what a jerk, there's a lot of truth in it. I spoke at one of my best friend's funeral, and I talked about his love of animals. His name is Jeremy Moore, and I talked about his love of animals, and I said, there's an old saying that goes, don't ever trust a man that doesn't like a dog, but always trust a dog that doesn't like a man. And I think there's so much truth in that because of the fact that the most pure, loving type of animal can sense a man that doesn't make him feel good.
You're right.
And I think there's some tough love aspects of coaching, but I think there's also that time that no one sees what we do in the locker room, where after a practice, we're over there hugging those kids' neck and telling them how much we love them. Or we're calling them after a game, after we've already told them once or twice, but we call them just to say, man, I can't lay my head on the pillow without letting you know one more time how much I appreciate what you do. And I think no one ever sees those, and that's okay. We're doing this not to be patted on the back and praised. We do it because of the feeling we get from our heart. And I think as coaches, that's what success is all about.
Man, I don't know if we talked any football, but we talked a lot about life. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm taking notes. I'm like, wow, this is some heavy stuff. Hey, Coach, congrats. Go get them this week. Y'all play Concordia Lutheran, starting
Yes, sir.
district play. This is the Greg Cranfill Show. St. Pius X, watch out for the Panthers this week. Hey, we'll catch you next week. We'll have some more insightful moments for sure.
Go Panthers.